The state has become central to how humans organize their political structures worldwide. We do not know when the first state-like structures emerged exactly, but we know that they emerged multiple times in multiple locations, and that not everyone enjoyed that really. Although these complex systems developed in different ages, cultures, and environments, the famous sociologist Max Weber recognized that they all had one thing in common, namely that their legitimacy lied in their ability to uphold the monopoly of violence, thereby maintaining order, safety, and justice within their confines. Today, it is almost impossible to imagine living without a state. The influential international relations scholar Martin White would go so far as to argue that every human on Earth needs the protection of a state in order to live lives of peace, safety, and prosperity. But is this really the case? Do we all really need the protection of a state, or could we live safe and prosperous lives without it, as some modern anti-state ideologies like anarchism would argue? We might find an answer to this question if we take a look at those who really seem to have no need for a state, those who even in this day lack even the basic concept of a modern state, and who have lived without it for many thousands of years, so-called uncontacted tribes. Hidden deep in the most remote areas of Africa, South America, and Asia, a small number of humans continue to live as hunter-gatherers, with little to no contact with the modern, outside world, which is why they are referred to as uncontacted tribes. Nobody really knows how many such uncontacted tribes there are. Experts estimate the number at around 100 worldwide, and among the most famous of these tribes are the Sentinelese. Their home lies in the Indian Ocean, on a small island in the Andaman archipelago known as North Sentinel Island. Although living secluded lives, the Sentinelese made international headlines back in 2018 when a man from the United States was killed by Sentinelese bowmen after illegally arriving on the island to convert the natives to evangelical Christianity. While this tragic incident made the Sentinelese famous, it is only a small fraction of the fascinating and still ill-understood story. The ancestors of the Sentinelese and the other related Andaman tribes probably arrived in the archipelago around 25,000 BC. It is likely that the Sentinelese lived in incredible isolation for thousands of years since then, as their language seems to be unrecognizable to members of the sister tribes on the other islands. The first recorded interaction between the Sentinelese and the outside world occurred in 1879 during a British colonial expedition to the island. When the expedition made land, the Sentinelese hid in the jungle, but eventually the British managed to find 2 elderly members of the tribe and 4 children, whom they took to nearby Port Blair for further examination. However, the elderly couple soon died of disease, and after that, the British decided to return the children with gifts to the island. What happened to them once they were back is unknown. The British would return on a number of occasions in the following decades, but always failing to establish contact with the Sentinelese. New attempts to contact them were made in 1967 by the Indian government, as the Andaman Islands became part of India in 1947. Initially, these were as unsuccessful as the previous ones conducted by the British. The Sentinelese would either retreat into the jungle or outright attack the Indian authorities with arrows and javelins. In 1974, a filming team sent by National Geographic was attacked by the natives when they came too close to the island. One arrow even injured the team's filming director. But peaceful contacts with the natives began occurring in 1991 under the leadership of Indian anthropologists. Their team managed to regularly exchange gifts with the Sentinelese, giving them vegetables, fruits, and even pigs. These contacts continued until 1996, when the Indian government ceased all further missions out of fear that they could inevitably bring disease to the Sentinelese, to which they have no immunity. Since then, the island has been declared a no-go zone by the Indian government in order to protect the Sentinelese. However, this measure couldn't prevent the outside world from impacting them entirely. In 2006, Indian fishermen entered the zone illegally and accidentally got stranded on the island shores. Soon after, they were killed by Sentinelese arrows, a fate that would also befall the previously mentioned missionary in 2018. What do we learn from uncontacted tribes like the Sentinelese and about their need for a state? Well, for tens of thousands of years, uncontacted tribes were able to live in isolation and without needing a state for protection thanks to the remote and inaccessible locations they inhabit. For the tribes living in the most remote areas of the Amazon rainforest, for instance, the Spanish and Portuguese conquests of the Americas made little to no changes to their lives. The same is true for the Sentinelese, who seemingly lived on their remote island in complete isolation until the British arrived in the 19th century. This natural isolation allowed them to evade the modern world and continue living the ancient way of life. However, human technological progress has not stopped connecting the world at an increasingly rapid rate. The amount of land which is truly inaccessible to the modern world is continuously shrinking, and the natural isolation, which protected uncontacted tribes for thousands of years, is quickly fading away. And with that, the dangers of the modern world are coming ever closer, including pollution, disease, and deforestation. Today, this natural isolation must be supplemented with a state-enforced artificial isolation. If that does not happen, we can see what would happen to the Sentinelese if we take a look at one of the sister tribes, the Yavara, on Great Andaman Island. There, a road was built through their reserve in the 1970s to better connect the island, which had detrimental effects on the Yavara. Disease outbreaks, increased alcohol abuse, and even human safaris began threatening their existence, which caused the Indian government to enforce several protective measures, including restricting the use of the road to large convoys 3 times a day. When looking at uncontacted tribes, their history, and the dangers which await them in the modern world, it seems to me that White's principle, namely that every human being needs the protection of a state, is a statement which has become more true over time for them. And if it has become true for them, what does it say about us? Thank you all for watching. My channel has recently surpassed 40,000 subscribers, and I would like to thank everyone who takes the time to watch the content I make. I also have a Patreon page, so if you'd like to support this little channel, you will find the link in the description. I see you in the next one. Bye.